Um, you're here again on my channel. Wow, so happy to see you. My name is King. Um, yes, I go live every day. I was live yesterday, and I am here today again. How was everybody's weekend? Um, how was everybody's, how is everybody's week going? I hope so far there has not been too much discomfort. Today's visitor to the stream would be my Olaf from Frozen. My Olaf, how do we call him? We call him the secretary of the meeting today, of the live today. He's going to take minutes of the live today, and he's going to, if he wants to contribute something, we're going to hear him out, okay? So Olaf will be here. Hello. Such a pretty dog. And already we're spooky season, yeah. So I cannot just jump spooky season to say, Christmas is coming. Yeah, no, Christmas is still far away. As long as October is here, we're still in spooky season. So anyways, yeah, yesterday was very interesting. Yesterday's stream was interesting because I was able to, you know, focus on certain things that I cared about, that I care about, and I was able to have like a very fun discussion with my subscribers and people that join this stream. Yeah, and I'm so happy every time I have such moments with my um audience, with you guys, where it's like it's not like, but it just perfectly flows. Everybody's like sharing their thoughts, contributing their opinions, and um we are hearing each other out and all of that. So anyways, today is another day, but today's live stream is going to be centered around certain topics that I think for a very long time I have been considering. Yeah, and that discussion, that topic is it has always been there in my mind, but it kind of came into full force when I saw this video on YouTube, where this author David Foster Wallace is reading his one of his essays, Consider the Lobster. And I listened to it, and one thing about listening to David Foster Wallace, you have to always remember that he's of this philosophy that we have to get comfortable with boredom, yeah, and that he expressed a lot of fears around how entertainment, would come to be this pipeline that will lead people into losing their humanity. Yeah, it's not word for word what he says, but it's what I picked up from several of his interviews, and okay, so when I listened to this, so when I came into this video, yeah, listening to him, narrate his essay, I was, I'm not going to lie, I felt this temptation to kind of like, oh, I'll just, I'll skip over to something else here. I felt this temptation to kind of drift off, and because I only have my phone, it's not like I have another media source of entertainment, I was like, maybe I should not listen to it today. Maybe I should not, listen to this essay today. But I kept on thinking about his position about this need to skip to the next form of entertainment, this need to not sit in one place with your boredom. Yeah, and I was like, okay, since this is what he stands for, let me sit with how I feel right now. Let me sit with the boredom that I'm feeling from this narration, and let me just wait for it to, like, let me get through it, you understand? And so I stayed in this feeling, and I'm so happy I did. I'm so happy I held out, through the whole resistance to sitting in one place, this resistance to letting my brain just be like empty, of distractions, this moment where I have to make my brain, listen to something that I wanted to listen to, despite the fact that it is not entirely interesting or distracting. Hello, Kelly. Welcome to the chat. And so I sat and I listened to Consider the Lobster. Hello, Trend. Hello, CJ. Hi. Welcome to the chat. And I listened to this essay, yeah. And I wish, obviously, yeah, if I had tried to take notes, like on my first listen, I might have missed, the point of it. I just wanted to sit with the feeling, and just get through what he was saying, yeah, get what he was talking about. And oh my God, like the things that I got, you know, I think that I got through it. Another fun part of this video essay, this narration that he did, is the fact that there's this funny thing he did in the beginning, where he was like, so like I like footnotes, or not like I like footnotes, but he said there are a lot of footnotes in my works, and I get carried away with the footnotes, but this is an audio book, so to speak. And in this audiobook, the way the editor tells me to mark my footnote is that when I want to say my foot when I want to note when I want to make footnote of this video, the audio is going to change, and then he speaks in that different mic, and then he says this is for footnote, and it goes back to the original like setting of the mic, and like this is for the mic, and then he says, if you don't like this, consider that this is not my fault. Oh my god, that was so funny for me to like hear. In that moment it felt like I was listening to somebody, like the person was just real here on the other side of the mic or whatever. But going ahead here, the thing about first of all, my own background with lobster is that I've never had lobster before. It is not a common meal that we have in this country, Nigeria, which I am from. My name is King. This is Nigeria. I'm sure from Nigeria. So so what are the only my only history with lobster is media. Okay, I see people enjoy it, and then when the rise of mukbang came about on YouTube, that lots and lots of channels would do seafood boiled mukbangs, we do lobster mukbangs, and there was all this spice, and it looked so, as all mukbangs usually look, it looked so um gratuitous, the way it was just plentiful, and it caused a mess everywhere, you know. Johan, I don't understand the language. So anyways, like I was saying, I don't know anything about lobsters. I don't know what it tastes like. I've never had experience eating it, and it's not a common meal choice for us in this country. Okay, we don't eat the seafood options we have in our country is just like fish. Yeah, we don't really add crustaceans to our meal options because they are usually expensive, and the fishing of them is quite costlier, and if it does not have entire um profit value for us, for the fishermen or the people that deal in seafood in our country. So what we usually eat as our seafood options is mostly just fishes, you know. um did you read the title, Johan, or did you just want to do you just want to make noise? If you don't read the title, or if you read the title and you still don't understand what we're talking about, scroll away. So as I was talking, so the seafood options are very, like I said, just limited to the fish. Okay, we have something called crayfish that we eat. Okay, but crayfish is used more as a garnish in our meal. We grind them up, and add it to our soups. Um, for shrimps, yeah, you get shrimps as like a novel style of meal when you go to hotels, when you spend money at hotels, and not everybody is going to go to spend money at the hotel to eat shrimp. Okay, it's not, doesn't seem worth it. Like I said, all those kind of meals, all those kind of what other thing again, there's another one between shrimps and lobsters. There's this other one that's a bit bigger. We don't eat it common, it's not common to the average Nigerian. Yeah. But when I used to, like, when I see, because I'm very interested in cuisines from different parts of the world. Yeah, so a lot of cuisines I see online, yeah, they focus on, they have this meal set, they have this option in their regular meal for seafood, yeah, and they eat lobsters, and they eat crabs, they eat shrimps, and they eat there's this other one too, so they eat a lot of seafood, yeah, like crustaceans of the sea, they do that. um Another thing that is made known by written here by David Foster Wallace in great detail is the class of species that lobsters belongs to. And listening to it, I remember him saying that lobsters are arthropods, yeah, and they they don't have a centralized nervous system like the way we have in brain, but they do have a central nervous system, like is as in the form of a spine. Yeah, they do have that. Okay, and he was saying something about how they have like exoskeletons, that protect their inner parts and all of that, and then the presence of this you know multiple legs, like arthropods and all of that. So anyways, he made this very he put this scientific like classification of lobsters in this essay, so you know what we're talking about here. You know what he is telling you about, he's narrating in the essay. Okay, so aside that, I'm just saying that it's something like when I look at foreign countries and their meal options, and I'm like, oh, maybe when I travel to this country I'll try it out. Lobsters is one of those meal options. Lobster used to be one of those meal options that I was like, no, I definitely have to see what people enjoy in this food, in this meal option. Yeah. So anyways, let's put him here because it's kind of distracting. um So, But after listening to this essay here, by David Foster Wallace, I've started to rethink a lot of things in my life, like that type of goal. Like, do I want to actually eat lobsters? And if I were to make like a very comprehensive but short summary of what he proposes in the essay. Actually, I don't think he was trying to get at some kind of gotcha moment in his with his essay. I don't know. I think he was just trying to shine the light on something that seemed so ordinary, something that seemed so commonplace, and something that was just basically accepted without question or without thoughts, deep thoughts, yeah, and without deep reflections. And he with his essay, he shone this kind of light on it, and it's like, hey, look at the details of this aspect of your life that you take for granted, and how does that, he's not even asking you, well, maybe he was asking like, how does that make you feel, and what would you like, what could be your conclusions going forward. I think that's why the title of the essay is Consider the Lobster. David Foster Wallace, was an American author that most of the time when interviewers, described him. Hello, Nolly TV, welcome to the chat. Most of the time when the interviewers described him, they described him as a genius, okay? But at the end of the day, from what I know, in my short period so far, going and finding out different things about David Foster Wallace, is that I don't think he saw himself in that sense, and that is why whenever, if I want to ever introduce him to somebody, I wouldn't say, oh, he was a genius, because he never actually described himself in that manner. He never truly saw or believed in his own, genius. He just focused on most of the thing, his ambition, and the fact that how his ambitions, crippled him. Hello, Desert Channel, welcome back to the chat again. So today I'm talking about this essay by an American, author, David Foster Wallace, and the title of the essay is Consider the Lobster. And before now, thank you very much. Before now I was, talking about how for me, yeah, my own background in lobster is that I've never had it before, and lobsters are not a common meal option in my country. People don't go out of their way to like make lobsters a part of their meal. It will be too expensive to obtain, it will be too expensive, to maintain as a meal option. Yeah, I think that is why we in this country, we don't eat lobsters. But anyways, my point of saying that is like, I also had this aspiration to kind of, experience lobsters, when I traveled to a different country, when I traveled to countries that incorporated, this seafood aspect of a meal into their meal. Oh, lobsters are symbolic in your family. How? Explain. um I think the thing that maybe a foreigner might be hard pressed to eat that from my own country is snails, because snails are very commonplace here. A lot of people eat snails and all of that. Thank you for that. There's that channel. So that is just like a little thing here. But in this essay, the reason why I'm speaking about it is because there is a part of me that has been changed after listening to this American author speak about, this topic. No, I'm talking about. I thought you were speaking about the lobsters. I don't know anything about it gap or whatever. Like, I don't know about that. So anyways, yeah, Dax, welcome to the chat. Thank you for joining me today. So anyways, this American author here, I feel a lot of inspiration, from his works. I feel inspired when I listen to him, and when I finish listening to the lobster, when I finish listening to that essay, a part of me started to rethink my desire to eat lobsters. A part of me started to rethink my desire to eat, those sort of seafood. Yeah, because to me it was just like, I don't think I want to do that. Yeah. And this is coming on the heels of me already. I've already educated myself on meat as well, and how meat is sourced, into our homes, how the beef industry, how agriculture, and like the way cattle is being sourced and changed into. Yeah, thank you for your time as well, Desert. Thank you so much for stopping by. The way cattle is being brought into our lives, and we eat meat, and we eat chicken, and we eat all of that. And I already had this understanding that when you look at the philosophy behind slaughtering animals, and eating them, it is coming from a place of exploitation. It is coming from a place of just senseless violence, just to sate an appetite. Because and you see that even in Consider the Lobster, David Foster Wallace, he goes to say, like, in his summary, in his conclusion, not summary, in his conclusions, he starts to speak about how um when they say things like, oh, if the animal was in your shoe, would you like, there's this equation he tries to bring forth, where people might be like, what is the value of a lobster compared to the value of a human life? Is it that the lobster's life has lesser value than the human life? And it's like, it is not that you are comparing the life of the lobster to the value of the life of a lobster to the value of life of a human. No, you're comparing the value of the life of a lobster to just, our gustatory, kind of like your taste buds. Basically, you're just comparing it to satisfying your human taste bud. Like, oh, what is the value of one lobster's life, just to sit at this aspect of our existence that is not as important to our being alive. If you don't eat lobsters for the rest of your life, you're not going to die. It's just to satisfy this pleasure seeking aspect of you, which is found in eating, which is found in your appetite. And I'm listening to him as someone that has never had lobster in their life, you get. And after listening to the essay, I'm like, oh wait, maybe I don't ever need to taste a lobster in my life. Maybe I don't want to. Maybe I feel like, yes, the value of a lobster, the value of the life of a lobster is worth more than this aspect of my pleasure seeking identity. This part of my identity that seeks out pleasure in eating. Yeah, I don't think that part of my identity would be more fulfilled or would miss out on anything if I never ate a lobster in my life. You get. And then again, another thing he brings to mind is like, okay, in America, I think he's talking about Maine. In Maine there's this festival, the Maine Lobster Festival, something like that. It's a festival where, I don't know if the festival is still being held, but it's a festival where Americans travel to this part of their country to participate in eating freshly killed lobsters just off of the water, like just off of the sea, like that. Yeah, like fishermen would stay by the sea with their boats, and they would catch lobsters, and then these lobsters will be freshly prepared for this visiting tourist, yeah, to eat in any shape or form. Yeah, I think there's even lobster dumplings, and he mentioned different variety of how these lobsters are prepared, how they are different meal options you can get out of a lobster you get. And he says everything is available at this festival, and people line up, and it's as if you're at Disney World there, people lining up in the heat, and this particular correspondence that he's getting all of this information from said they went on a day where it was raining. So it was raining, it was gloomy, and yet people were still like crowded in the area, and just lining up to eat at this festival of killing of, let me not say use the word killing because it's the same as if I'm pushing some kind of forceful message in here. Let's just say of eating a lobster. Yeah, they're just lining up at this display of turning lobsters into food for us for them human being. Yeah. And another thing about the correspondent is like when they got to the airport, the person that picked them up is a local, was a local that has lived there all their life. And the man is a veteran, the taxi driver is a veteran, and he was saying something and they asked him like, have you participated in like, do you participate in the festival? And he's like, no. And he's like, they basically asked him if he was getting anything out of the festival. He said no, and he has lived there all his life. Yeah, he said no, but he was still preaching to them that, oh, you people should come and try out this festival. The festival is fun, or the festival is good. You should come and enjoy different kind of lobsters. And they asked him like, you, like, do you? And he's like, no, I don't participate. I don't participate in the festival. And the Foster Wallace always also brought out this aspect of the conversation, how tourists, um, kind of they kind of like suck the life out of the environment that you know they exist in. Yeah, I don't know how I said it, but basically I did not make notes because I wanted to really focus on what he was saying, and I didn't want to um what to say. I didn't want to miss out on what he was talking about, and it really really affected me deeply. Yeah, but the correspondence, he was the way they described the environment of the festival. There was nothing glamorous about it. It just felt as if it was just this compulsion of people that are used to seeking out this specific kind of pleasure as being a tourist. This kind of tourist experience. Being an intra-country tourist. Traveling from one state in a country to another. To be a tourist in that part of the country. Like they were just there for the sake of being tourists. There was no real value being gleaned, because at the end of the day, you can eat lobsters, where you're from, get and but the only thing is that the economy there becomes dependent on this influx of visitors during this period. That's summer. So he says that the Foster always tells us that the habit of lobsters is that they are very sensitive to weather conditions. They're sensitive to the seasons, and once and that they are plentiful in the area when it is summer, because they like being in that temperature of water and all of that. But once it starts to get really cold and unpleasant, you see them move and start to seek out like warmer parts of the sea or warmer parts of the ocean to be in. You get, and they're very sensitive to temperature. So then when you talk about the sensitivity of lobsters to temperatures, you get, then where does it come from, this meat where people that cook? And he kept on referencing people that participated in cooking as in chefs. He didn't call them chefs, but he called them a certain name, but like people that cook. Yeah, basically people that cook. And they tell the thing about lobsters is that they are best eaten fresh. So when they are caught from the sea, they are placed into bowls, like I don't know if you can call them aquariums, but like glass containers here, like in captivity here, in the shops. When you go to buy them, they are alive, they are there with crowded in with other lobsters. And the thing about lobsters is that they like space, they like being in their own space. And it's like, if you put a lobster in close quarters with other lobsters, they are going to actually kill themselves there. So what they do when they catch them, from the sea. They declaw them, or they something is he called the something the declaw them or something, and the process is described as a painful one, where they are without their defensive, limb, that the defensive part of their skeleton. They are without it, and it is painful for them to live in such conditions, but they are now placed in this uncomfortable, bowl for display, that people can just come and look at them and say, oh, I want this lobster, I want to buy this lobster, you get. And so they are not killed. Okay, they are not killed on sea. They are brought into captivity alive, and they're kept alive until somebody buys them from the market, from there, or from the store or whatever. And so the another aspect of this lobster again is that I was talking about how the chefs, spread this myth that lobsters don't know that they are being boiled. Yeah. So, like, first of all, let's talk about the two different kinds of lobsters that people catch during the, not people, but the fishermen catch during the a festival. Yeah, there are two kinds of lobsters. There is the hard shell lobsters, and there's the soft shelled lobsters. There's the way he highlighted the differences between these two. Yeah, and I think he was saying it in essence that the hard shell lobsters are, I can't remember it. Oh my god, I wish I had made notes. But anyways, there are those two kinds of lobsters. Yeah, and so back to the cooking thing. Yeah, so people that cook lobsters, people that teach people ways. Hello Donny, welcome to the chat. I'm from Nigeria, welcome. um so the people that teach like regular mass of people to cook lobsters, yeah, they tell them that, oh, lobsters will not fail, when you slowly increase the temperature of the water they are being boiled in. And David Foster Wallace goes into like very, very detailed breakdown of how the lobsters actually, how that is a lie, you know. Yeah, I'm from Nigeria, Donny. I'm from Nigeria, and I'm talking about this essay by this American author David Foster Wallace. Considered the lobster. I'm talking about the essay, and I really, really, really love the essay. Yeah, it's impacted me, and it has inspired a sort of lifestyle change for me. In the sense that I have decided that I am not curious about the taste of lobsters anymore. I'm not interested in trying lobsters. I even had one of my subscribers be like, oh, their favorite, they enjoy eating seafood boil. My name is King Donny. King. They enjoy eating seafood, but and I was like, oh my god, I'm so curious about lobsters here. I'm so curious about seafood here. That specific brand of menu called seafood boil. And I'm like, I have always been curious about it. Yeah, I've seen it on videos, in mukbangs, and all of that. And I'm like, how good can this thing taste that people, savor it and enjoy it like this? Yeah. But anyways, now I don't really care for it. Yeah, because the process of killing a lobster and bringing it to just killing a lobster, to prepare it for a meal, it doesn't seem what this satisfaction of my appetite, it is going to give me. It doesn't seem worth it. Yeah, and I feel like um and I want to talk about it a bit, yeah, in a sense, like it is also connected to the idea, like the belief that some people have, where they're like, oh, they don't eat meat as well, and they don't eat any form of meat or dairy and all of that, and I'm like in the past, yeah, way back when I was like way younger than this. Hello, Cosmas. Welcome to the chat. Way younger than this, I really did not care. I really did not care for vegans or vegetarians. Yeah, I felt maybe, they were being extreme, because I could not picture my life without, the taste of meat, and I could not picture how people could go about without wanting to eat meat, as delicious I have always believed meat and necessary I've always believed meat to be, and it's like now I've now that I get more educated about where meat comes from, how meat is sourced, how animals are slaughtered, yeah, to just to satisfy the taste of me, a fully fledged human being that has more autonomy than these animals. You get, it feels unbalanced. It feels like it's not worth it yet. Although I have not, given up meat entirely. It's just there in my heart. It's just brewing, and that was just meat, yeah. And now where I'm at, after listening to this essay by David Foster Wallace, he's an American author. He wrote this essay called "Consider the Lobster," and it has, how to say it has touched a part of me that I never knew was there, because even I was considering like, oh, I might be stepping away from meat, yeah. There's this aspect that never ever considered, fish, lobsters to be exact. And I'm so glad I came across this essay, and I'm so glad I listened to it in its entirety, and I heard where, this author was coming from, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me, you know that just makes sense to me. So the myth that goes around when you want to, when they want to tell you how to cook a lobster, they tell you things like, oh, you just put the lobster in a pan or in a kettle, not in a pot or in a kettle, and then you slowly increase the temperature of the water it is boiling in, and it wouldn't even know when it passes, because lobsters don't have a centralized system of um um they don't have a centralized nervous system like we do. That is a brain. So basically, since they don't have brain, they would not understand that what they are feeling is pain, to be hurt by it. And one thing that this author puts forth is that lobsters don't have brains, yes, but they do have a spine, okay? And this spinal system they have, also feeds, nociceptors in along the body of the lobster. Nociceptors are pain receptors. So yes, the lobsters do feel pain when they are boiled alive, okay? There's no such thing as not feeling pain. They do feel pain. And like, okay, fine, if you feel pain, maybe they don't recognize that what is happening to them is the source of their pain. Maybe there is this obliviousness to the torture that is occurring to them, so it makes it less, in makes it, stop looking at me, Ola. It makes it less, less, how to say it, savage, to just kill a living thing alive, and it's like, even the people, let's consider people that go through a lobotomy, yeah. Records have shown like that those people also feel pain, yeah. They understand that they are going through pain, but at the end of the day, is this kind of understanding in the sense like there's nothing they can do about the feelings of pain that they are experiencing. And I'm not sure if that's accurate, but basically what I remember is that even people that don't have like their what to call it, the lobe that processes, logic and all of that, in their head, they're human beings. They do understand that they are going through pain, and the only thing is that they don't feel this need to fight, not to fight. They don't feel this need that they don't feel this understanding that they can do something to stop the pain. They just feel the pain, they suffer from it, but they can't, they feel like they don't know that they can stop, receiving pain. It's just like, wow, this is happening to me here, and I'm in pain here. So like that is the level of lobsters you get. That's where they are, and it's like, there's now this implication when you say things like, oh, they don't have brains. It's like, oh, they don't want to they don't wish to escape, their fate of being cooked alive, and it's like, how can you, what is the basis of making that conclusion, you get? Because when you see lobsters being cooked alive, you can hear them grappling with the corners and the corners of the kettle where they are cooked, the pots that they are cooked in. You can hear them desperately scrambling the cover of the pot, wherein they are cooked alive, and they are scrambling with the cover, and they are trying to get out, basically. we cannot just say, oh, we cannot just, obviously we can't translate the lobsters messages. We can't speak to a lobster, we can't speak with a lobster, but um yeah, it's like, even if you don't, you think, why do they now scramble? Yeah, why do they struggle with the cover of the pot? Why are they like pushing against the heat like that they're experiencing, trying to get out of it, and then somebody was not like, oh, there's a better way to kill lobsters before you prepare them. You just take a knife and you stab them, in this aspect of their body that's like their head. Yeah, you stab them, and so it's like you are giving them an easy death. And it's like, no, when you stab them in that part of their body, you simply disable them, so they are still very much alive, while whatever you begin to do after stabbing them happens. Yeah, they are alive, but they are just, docile, and there's nothing they can do about it. Like, it's like being buried alive. You get, they have no voice, they cannot scream, and they can no longer use their skeleton, their limbs, to kind of struggle against whatever is being done to them. You get, so another aspect, another person was like, okay, if you put them in water, that has, is this salty water? Are lobsters freshwater animals? Anyways, if lobsters are freshwater animals, according to what he said, um you now put them in waters with salt. You get, kind of like to dry them out, but at the end of the day, you are putting them in the water that has no oxygen for them, and therefore they suffocate to death. So there is no real ethical way of killing a lobster. Any way you decide to kill a lobster that you want to eat, you get, is going to be barbaric. That is just the truth of it. And I don't think he doesn't say that, but when he spells out, the author doesn't say that, like David Foster Wallace doesn't say that, oh, what you're doing is barbaric. Yeah? He doesn't say it in explicit terms. I think that's the beauty of his style of writing here. But when he spells out all of this aspect of a lobster's existence to you, and then he now draws out how, we as human beings justify our killing of them, and the way we justify preparing them for meals, just to satisfy our taste buds. You have to you will come to that conclusion yourself, if you had any sort of, empathy, or if you felt any sort of, like, normally it's supposed to be uncomfortable. You're supposed to feel uncomfortable about, you know eating a living creature. You get, about your meal, the way you live your life. You're supposed to feel uncomfortable. The conversation is supposed to be uncomfortable. Yeah. But the thing about the mass appeal of lobsters is that all of this aspect of killing and preparing a lobster is not being translated to the masses, that enjoy lobsters. Yeah, that is why there is a whole tourism industry around it, in America, and people, spend time, take time out of their days to become tourists, to line up for hours. Okay, notification, worrying, but thank you for that. So um because this aspect of, preparing a lobster to eat, is not being spread, instead we just focus on the economic value of, selling and making a profit off of lobsters. The market, lobsters existing where, like, you can make profit from, killing them en masse, and, distributing them and selling them, and people coming to do tourism around, the killing of them and the eating of them in different meal plans or whatever. All of that, like, I feel like that was very spelled out in his essay, and it inspired me in the sense of, like, oh, I think maybe I'm fine without lobsters. I've never eaten lobster before. I've always aspired, to feel like, okay, one day I'll travel to, a country that has, lobsters in its cuisine, and I'm going to try lobsters. But now it's like, no, I don't think so. I don't think it's worth it. Yeah. And he says in the essay, David Foster Wallace, he says that when people say things like, oh, the what is the value of a lobster's life, higher, like, when associations like Peter, they say things like, "Oh, consider the life of a lobster. Is it of a lesser value than a human life?" And it's like that is not the comparison to make here. The comparison to make here is that is the value of one lobster's life, what just this aspect of your pleasure seeking desires. Yeah, you just want to satisfy your taste bud, and so you allow a lobster to go through this horrible process of preparation into meal for you. It's not like if you don't eat lobsters you're going to die. It's not like if you don't eat a lobster for the rest of your life you're going to miss out on what it means to be a human being. It's not like you're going to lose an aspect of your autonomy and your freedom as an individual human being. No, nothing is going to be affected aside from your gustatory gustatory pleasure. Simple as that. Yeah. But anyways, I like the essay. I enjoyed the essay, and after I completed, after I listened through to the end of the essay, I was just in this place where um I just had to sit, and think to myself and just like carry the weight of the reality of lobsters. Yeah. And how, I don't know, it's just so, whenever you consider, because I'm a human being, okay, and I, when I hear of practices that are inhumane, of course I'm going to be affected. Of course I'm going to be stumped and flabbergasted by the horrors that exist. And it's like, okay, this is a specific type of horror that exists, and no I have no way of combating this horror aside from making a personal decision. Okay, it's so that affects nobody but me. By the end of the day, I feel like as if I would be contributing. If there's one less person in the world that does not um what to say, that does not consent to the um harming of another creature, yeah, especially a creature that has no say, in their no full say in their lived experience. Yeah, I feel like then that's just what I have to make my peace with. Yeah, just deciding not to eat lobsters. It's just like, okay, fine, no problem. Like, at least let us just be one less person that lobsters have to worry about in this, on this planet. Yeah. So anyways, I feel like I've said fully everything I want to say about the whole matter. Um, so basically it's just like I think this, if you look closely at the slaughter, a carnivore diet that human beings like to like boast about, like, oh, I'm a carnivore, I'm an omnivore. Human beings are not just carnivores, they are omnivores. That side of TikTok is just like delusion and mass psychosis that I don't know, maybe there's a worm in their brain, but whatever. I think humans are omnivores. Yeah, they eat everything. But when you look at the slaughter of animals, for plain like satisfaction of appetite, yeah. Hello, Michael Victor. Welcome to the chat. I feel like it is kind of, personally, yeah, I have this opinion that the slaughter of animals for meat, is just rooted in the hierarchical structures we exist in, the hierarchical systems we operate in, that one person has more power over this other person, and therefore it is up to this person to always exploit and oppress this weaker person in the system. And when you go down the chain of oppressed peoples, at the very bottom of this chain is what animals. Animals are oppressed, animals are mistreated by human beings, and they have no real say over the way their lives go, because simply for the fact that we exist in the same space as they do. You understand? Simply for the fact that we exist, um they don't have the same facilities that we that we do. When I mean facilities, facilities of speech and what human beings call thought. You get, they say things like, oh, animals don't cannot speak. What if, consider it's the fate of animals to be eaten by human beings? And it's like, I've heard that kind of rhetoric being spread about, oppressed people around the world, where people say things like, well, it is the fate of the Israelites, to be the chosen one of God. It is the fate of the Israelites to be chosen, to be God's chosen people. And if being God's chosen people will mean, destroying the Gentiles or destroying Palestinians, then that's just the luck of the Palestinians. It is just, it is the fate of Israelis to, kill Palestinians, because it is in the Bible. They've been doing it for years and years, and so, like, we can't just go against fate. And it's like, that kind of excuse is what is being used when people want to really defend, why they eat meat. They say things like, oh, what if it is the fate of, and I've even said it myself, like, way back when I was way younger, I said things like, but what if that is just the destiny of the animals to be eaten by us? And now it's like, that rhetoric, it is a rhetoric of oppression. It is just a rhetoric of refusing to um find another way of existing with the things that with the creatures that we find ourselves living with. Yeah, like, there's no way. We refuse to think about it. We numb ourselves to the reality of it. And I was also listening to somebody else one time talking about how meat slaughter and the treatment of animals. Hello Pristine, welcome to the chat. um how meat slaughter is related to oppression of women, and the violence that women face at the hands of men. And this person was talking about how in animal farms where good afternoon, Pristine. I mean, in animal farms where animals are to be slaughtered, like pigs are being slaughtered to be mass spread or mass produced as meat, pork, bacon, all of that words, instead of just saying you are eating pig. you know um the men, first of all, it is only men that work in this type of farm. Second of all, it is lower class men that are in a country for that immigrated to a country and cannot find better paying jobs because of the system that blocks that. And these men are also in the process of slaughtering these animals. Like, they cannot stand it. It is, oh, it's okay, it's okay, thank you, Pristine. They cannot stand this action that they are committing, this action of just slaughter. I'm talking about, first of all, I started talking about this essay I listened to on YouTube. Yeah, it is an essay by an American author, David Foster Wallace. And David Foster Wallace, he's what people would describe as a genius. Yeah, but anyways, aside of his biography, let's just talk. Like, what I wanted to bring out was this essay he wrote titled "Consider the Lobster." It is in the title of my video. Consider the lobster. And after listening to the essay, I decided in my heart that I will not eat lobsters again. Like, I've never eaten them before. In Nigeria we don't eat. I don't. It's not common to eat lobsters. Yeah, I've never had lobsters in one day in my life. Yeah, but after listening to this video, I I used to have aspirations that one day maybe I'll travel abroad, and when I travel abroad I'll try lobsters. And it's like, thank you, I'm not interested in that anymore. And in this essay he goes into graphic, like, very detailed aspect of the killing of lobsters that is required before you cook them, and how they are generally treated, how they are kept, how they are slaughtered, how you know just very horrible. Yeah, if you listen to the essay as well, you kind of, maybe you'll be able to get what I'm talking about. But I just wanted to break out the details that kind of touched me in the essay. And I was like, and then now that you joined me, it was the prayer as well, like connecting it to also a conversation that I joined, or I was able to listen to, about slaughtering of animals for meat. We eat meat. It's very generalized. Can't say we don't eat meat in this country. We eat meat, we eat beef, we eat a lot of different kinds of animal meat, and um it is linked to, for me personally, what I understand now is that, when you see the rhetoric, the conversations about the horrible slaughtering of animals, you get people say things like, maybe, it is animals' destiny to be eaten by humans. You get, like, oh, human beings eat animals. That's just how it is. Yeah, that's just how we are. You know, and it's like, but we can question things like that. Yeah. And it's like, no, maybe sometimes it's just, the meat is so delicious, you get, and maybe, it is the fate of the animals to be eaten by the human beings. And then the only thing about that rhetoric is that people apply that rhetoric to oppressing other people in this world. When you come across some people, you know I think even in the north here in Nigeria here, when you ask questions about why is it that, like most northerners, are poor, and it's not like other tribes are not poor here, but like you see a lot of people, in where I live, begging, and they are all like northerners, like Hausa people, and it's like, why? And then they say things like, oh no, it is religious, it is very acceptable for some people to be poor and for some people to be rich, and all of them has been granted to the fate that they have as poor people, as beggars, was given to them by God. You get, and it's like that kind of rhetoric, it allows us to become docile it allows us to become docile in the face of like blatant exploitation of our fellow human beings. Yeah, these people that are, that are beggars in this state, or in whatever state you are that you see beggars, those people, you understand that they are being trafficked. Yeah, like these women, they come as children, and then by the time they grow up to, like, let's say 14, 15, I don't know the age, I've not paid attention, but I noticed some children that, that in my area that beg, you get, before you see them pregnant. Who is getting them pregnant? And then after having their children, you see them nurse these babies for like maybe 2 years, and then the baby now continues begging where the mother is. Or if it is boys, some of them, we don't see them again. Where did they go to? Where do they go to? Where are they being sent to? Who is taking them away? And then, as if it's unrelated, like, let's just pretend it's unrelated, you now start hearing of how Boko Haram, they're increasing in numbers, they're increasing in size, they're indoctrinating children. What children do you think people are using, for these terrorist propaganda and agenda? It is the children that, I'm sure there's a link between these children that are being trafficked, from these beggar women, to that aspect of the country. Meanwhile, these women stay there, and it's not like they only have one child. You see them different parts of the year, they are pregnant, different parts of the year they are holding an infant. You don't ask where, how, why is this normalized? It's normalized because we have accepted the excuse that they've given to us. Yeah, they send them out. But if a parent in a very sane society, Christine, in a very sane society, if a parent sends out their child to go and beg, is it not upon the government to come and do something about it? We watch American movies where, if like, you hear your neighbor beating the child, they can call CPS, as Child Protective Services, for the parents. Like, you don't have a right to lay hands on your children. You don't have a right to exploit your children for money. That is not why that is not, it has not, like, children are not supposed to be treated like that, because they have no autonomy. They only know you, their parents. So if you as their parents are now taking advantage of them, don't you think an external body should be called to control the situation, to regulate it? But because we've already been, indoctrinated with the rhetoric of, oh, maybe it is their fate to be poor. Maybe, they say in their Quran or something that some people should be poor and some people should be rich. And it's like, beggars are poor, so that is their place in life. And meanwhile, they are being exploited systematically by the government in place, by the people that have power, by the people that deal with child trafficking. Sending your child out to beg is trafficking, because that child is going to make money for you, a grown adult with all your faculties and senses that open your eyes and gave birth to a child without their consent, without anything. You are sending them out to go and make money for you to survive. That is trafficking. That is trafficking. That is child abuse. But we can't really, there's no real movement around it, because we allow rhetorics like that to stay. We allow rhetorics like that to be normalized. We get used to it. We turn our face away. We close our nose. Oh, this is smelly. No, it's so smelly here. Why is it smelling there? Why is a whole human being smelling around us and we just walk past them? Who is keeping count of them? What if some of them are used for so-called ritual practice? And I even want to say that this whole superstition that a human being can be used to make money for another person through some spiritual practices that we kind of normalize in this country is a whole lie. Human beings are being trafficked for their organs. A human being is being kidnapped and their organs are harvested and sold to the highest bidder in the black market. That is the only explanation I could even come up with when we think deeply about all these ideas that, oh, this babalawas, this man killed his girlfriend for money ritual, and it's like as if some spirit demon comes and eats up, gobbles up this woman and gives the boy money. And it's no, that woman has been trafficked. That woman has probably been sold. That woman has probably had her organs harvested. Okay, how many years did that president stay in power, even though he was deathly sick? How did he get, at his age, I'm sure he needed some organs. How did he get it when there is a whole, he has all the money in the world there, he has all the power, but you have to stay in line if you need an organ? Okay, do you think he's going to last from the time he's on the line for an organ and the time he's going to get it? Do you think he would last? No. They had, that's why this black market continues to thrive, because we rest, we become docile in the face of superstitions, religious lies that we are being told and sold to by the media. When we were children, Nollywood would make movies about how truly some evil spirit is coming to eat somebody up, and then bags of money will appear in that special room because they are eating the person up physically. And it's like, that is a lie. That is a bloody lie. And but that lie was reinforced intentionally, by media, by churches, by religions. Yeah, all of that to say, the more, like, if we live in when we live in a world that normalizes this brutal slaughter of animals, it's not far-fetched for us to realize that, to also see the connection between oppressions and exploitations of weaker members of our society. It is not far-fetched for us to come to that conclusion that that the way human beings are being treated like props, the way human beings are being treated like animals, yeah, like, if human beings can treat animals like that, slaughter them so mercilessly for meat and their body products, do you think they won't do that to a human being that does not have real autonomy? They would. They would. So the slaughter, the eating of meat is rooted in oppression and exploitation of human beings as well. Okay, now that we have the whole publicized, Israeli, starving of the Gaza and starving of Palestinians, and torturing them in cells without any real control, no regulation, no justice for those people. You hear Israeli people or supporters of Israelis saying things like, well, it is in the Bible. They're chosen people of God. God talks about Zion and how Zion is the home of Jesus Christ. And you can't fault God for removing strangers from his land. And in the Bible, is all over the place. Somebody will go to a new land, and instead of him to live with those people, he will start to hear visions from God of how this land is actually truly his own, that the people that he met there are the outsiders. They need to be slaughtered and killed without mercy, or if they are being left alive, they should become slaves for me, that I'm special and chosen by God to occupy this land. Like, if you even closely think about it, that is just the whole format of settler colonialism. Settler colonialism is what the white people, the Dutch and the British people did in South Africa. Till tomorrow, they've not left the country. They've not left the country. Why? They have given birth to generations of children that now feel as if, oh no, me, I'm a South African. And it's not like they came, to live and coexist with these people. They came to be lord and ruler over these people, and limit the actual indigenes of the land to becoming their slaves. That is the whole premise of settler colonialism, and that is what is happening in Palestine right now. Okay, and all of the people that are turning their face away, saying, well, isn't the Bible, God already promised them that, that is the rhetoric that people apply to killing animals. We say things like, animals, they don't know anything, they don't have brain, they know what is happening to them, they are suffering, they just don't have the autonomy, to escape this brutalization, this slaughtering of them. And me, I can say clearly that I don't want to eat lobsters anymore, but I've not stopped eating meat or fish. Okay, but this feeling is very present in my chest right now, and it's something that I know. Okay, I know even before I get to the point where I completely remove them from my diet, I know that I am already, like, I'm not interested in meat anymore, in that sense. It doesn't do anything for me. And people think, oh, it is radical, to say, oh, I'm not going to eat meat anymore. People think it is, you are on one kind of special path in life to say you are not eating meat, but it's not. The truth about it is that it is uncomfortable to live a life worth living. It is uncomfortable, okay, to choose to stand by your principle. Okay, yes, I was born eating meat, and I've had pleasure savoring meat, different kind of meat, and I'm at a level of income right now where I don't even fully enjoy meat in the way I want to enjoy meat. Like, oh, I don't have money to spend on turkey and all of that to get. But at the end of the day, even before I get to the point where I have that type of money, like, now that I know better, you know, I can't in good, like, I can't just say I will keep eating meat, you get. In fact, I feel like me having a higher source of income is even going to make me more strict towards my diet, my style of eating. Because it's like, now, us in Nigeria, if you consider the situation in Nigeria, most people get their protein from what? Eggs and meat. And eggs are even a rarity. Yeah, if you go to a shop, like a local restaurant, you say you want to eat food, if you take egg and meat, that means you have plenty money. Abi. So people will choose between egg or meat. And the thing that saves us in this country is that we are in a tropical area of the world, and so the calorie requirements we need to keep us going as healthy individuals in this country, like, because there's so much hunger in our land, there's starvation, people are barely having 3 square meals. Some people eat once a day, and they praise God for that. Yeah, they are happy that at least they ate something in one meal a day. Okay, and the reason why people keep surviving, in that situation in this Nigeria, is because we don't have the harsh weather conditions that would actually, like, dry us up from the inside out, because of how due to how bad our nutrition is. You get. So that is why, I can also empathize with Nigerians on the aspect of how being a vegetarian is not common here, because Nigerians need meat, in the sense of, like, if you don't add meat to your diet, there's a level of, suffering you experience from how poor your nutrition is. And I understand that, and that is why I feel like also the going vegetarian is also something that comes with a change in class. When you are of a higher class in life, you can afford to make to give yourself options of outside of meat. You can decide, no, I won't eat fish, I won't eat meat, because I am getting fiber, I'm getting different dietary options that I can eat from that are more expensive. Like, in this country, you can't just say you want to eat fiber diet, it's too expensive. Okay, apples are a great source of fiber. We can't eat apples in this country, it's too expensive. Like, we can't incorporate it into our diet every day because it is too expensive. You only eat apple if it's very, very special. Maybe somebody is on the street, somebody bought it for you, or maybe you have money that day and, like, thank God I can buy apple. This apple looks sweet too. You get that kind of thing. Like, very inaccessible options for our diet in this country. And that is why, vegetarianism is something that comes, like, as a luxury, when you change your class, maybe when you have a higher form of income, a higher source of income and all of that. So all of those things are valid there, but at the end of the day, we still have to have that awareness. We can't just keep going and excusing ourselves with the fact that, oh, I'm poor, that is why I can't choose not to eat meat. I can't say, you can't keep telling yourself that you can't close your mind to the possibility of like expanding your understanding of how the world works because of poverty. That is the circle of poverty. When you behave and you allow yourself to be dehumanized, you allow yourself to not have an expansive understanding of social commentary and social issues. You say it's because of poverty. That refusal, that persisting in ignorance is going to continue to keep you in poverty. Okay, and it's like you're already poor. You're already poor. So at the same time, why not just get something else that is freer, which is what education, which is what expanding your world, beyond what poverty demands you to stay in. Poverty demands you to be not human. Poverty demands that you don't enjoy aesthetics. Poverty demands that you can't make lifestyle choices. You can't make lifestyle changes. Poverty demands that your life is boring. You remain in a circle of laboring and never ever coming up for air. Poverty demands that you die in a life of without fanfare. You die with suffering. Poverty demands that you focus on survival instead of living. You understand? But that is where rebellion comes from. That is where revolution. People think revolution is about going in the street and fighting, which there's a time for that. But before we get to that point, and so that this revolution can persist for generations to come, we have to do the work of like revolting in our heads against the reality that we live in. We have to revolt from somewhere. You get, like, when I want to talk to people about things, I don't encourage people to jump the gun and say, oh, let me just jump from this building and throw bomb here so that this government will stop beating me, this government will stop. No, you start from inside. You start from inside, because even if at the end of the day, now that's why you see some people will get money and they still perpetuate the behaviors that they carried out as poor men. They still express the same ignorance. They are still inhumane. They are still insensitive. They are still nasty. Before they had an excuse for it, they'll say, I'm a poor man, I'm just trying to survive. That's why I'm like, now you are rich. What's your excuse for behaving like this? What's your excuse for being ignorant as a rich person? Why can't you educate yourself? No, it's not when you get money you educate yourself, which is something that we're also taught in this country. We're taught that forget all those ones. When you make money, you go get time for all those ones. It's a lie. You will not have the time anymore. In fact, money, having wealth, exacerbates everything that's already inside of you. And that is why you need to start from within. Okay, revolution is not an action, it is a change in mindset. That is what revolution is. Revolution is change of mindset. Okay, and it's not like agitating for people to, hey, distrust your neighbor. Your Yoruba neighbor is the enemy, your Igbo neighbor is the enemy. Look at what they did in the past, look at what they did now. No, at the end of the day, that's just tribalism. Tribalism is still one of the weapons used to keep people in poverty. It's still one of the ways used to express to continue oppressing peoples. Okay, it's not. That is why you see white man that has everything in his country would leave his country and go to somebody else's country to be a menace there, because money has not set him free. Luxury privileges have not set him free. He is still trapped in the horror that is his person, in the horror of his ignorance, in the horror of his of his uselessness. You get, and he wants to do something external. Hello Brian, welcome to the chat. He wants to do something external, and so what does he do? Phew, takes a plane ticket, flies. That time they will enter boat, suffer diarrhea and malaria on the seas, making sure that they must come to another man's country to come and be menaces there, because they want to run away from what is inside of them. So that is another thing. Another thing about poverty is the lie that, oh, you cannot change your situation. Okay, but when people say you cannot change your situation, they talk as if change is when you have $1 million in your bank account. No, that is not change. You remain who you are, even with 3 billion in your bank account. That's why Elon Musk is the most miserable person on this planet Earth. He has 500 billion, how many dollars, and he's still miserable. He still takes drugs. He treats his children like crap. He's still marrying, and he's not even marrying. He's just having children all over the place. None of those children get a cent of his money. Every time he's in court, somebody's calling him to pay child support. You have 500 billion dollars. You have 13 children. How much can you spend on these children that will even touch 1/4 of your money? How much will you spend on this your children? But he can't do that. He has to hold on to his money because that's the only thing that makes sense to him. He thinks his money will buy him freedom. Freedom cannot come until you free yourself inside. That is why you always have to expand your thinking. And that's the lie poverty keeps on reinforcing to you. You wake up in the morning and it's like, what's the point of bothering? I'm already poor, I'm sad, my life is hard. No, there is a point. There is a point. You have to set yourself free inside. And you set yourself free inside when you learn. You learn. I'm not, and when I say learning, I'm not saying like people that have hijacked this means of learning now, like YouTube, when you watch videos and you see people that kind of perpetrate hate and bigotry. Yeah, it's okay, Priscilla, I'm still here. They perpetuate hate and bigotry, and they slander everybody under the earth that does not look like them, and they say they are teaching you something. No, no, that's not the kind of learning you do. Freedom comes from within. Revolutionary, when people say there has to be a revolution, it is coming from a change in your mind. Okay, you cannot revolt if you don't change your mind. I think I was seeing something like online before I came here where I think Netherlands and Amsterdam, the whole street came out, like, is it yesterday or even today? Yesterday they came out in their numbers wearing red, supporting Palestine, marching around the city. They are comfortable, they are okay. Why are they protesting? And somebody even mentioned it when somebody said before, it's even easy to convince an Israeli person that Palestinians deserve their land back than talking to a Dutch person, like talking to somebody from that side of the world, because they were so convinced that Israel was right, to occupy, Palestinian lands. Yeah. But look at the reality today. Look at people protesting for them all over, like from places that you will not even believe would protest. How did that come about? Change of mind. It's not about change your mind. Okay, change your life. You don't change your life by getting a bunch of money. It's not going to work. It's not. You are going to remain who you are. If you like have billions and billions of dollars, you are still going to remain in that pit that you always blamed everything outside of you. Now let me calm down first. Let me now say, let me give a quick disclaimer that me saying this to you, I'm still here for the lashings that the government deserve for putting people in situations that are identified as poor. Okay, poverty is systemic. Poverty is intentional. You get the physicality, the externality of poverty. It is very, very intentional to put people in a situation where they don't have class mobility, that they can't move from this lower class to this upper class. It is intentional, because without poor people, rich people cannot have, their identities. You can't be rich if everybody is rich. Everybody's just okay. You can't be special. So they have to put people in these systemic forms of oppression, to maintain their status as Otedola, Dangote, Adelekes, and all that crap. Like, if people are not poor, they don't have that. They don't have that. So, all of those systems, still apply in this conversation. But what I'm saying is that the only thing the systems cannot, not that they can't, because a lot of people have become jaded and cynical and pessimistic about their future because of the systems they exist in and the circumstances. But at the end of the day, we can't let ourselves sink into nihilism. We can't let ourselves sink into this hole that the system keeps pushing us towards. We can't do that. We can't let ourselves go there. we have to resist somehow. Yes, we can't resist because we can't resist to the boss, in our office because he controls our income. We can't resist to our local government because they refuse to hear us out. No, but where can we show our resistance is in our minds. In our minds we can maintain our resistance. In our minds we can stand for what we believe in. Nobody can come and twist the beliefs you have in your mind. Forget all these lies all these influencers used to do when they'll say you're an influencer, stand up for something, and they're like, I actually have a job to do. I'm actually doing something, with my career. And it's like, shut the fuck up, man. You don't need this money. You don't need this money. You don't need this money. Stop lying to me. Like, just stop lying to yourself. Yeah, forget all those ones that all those influencers, so that they turn a blind eye to, what is going on in the world right now, especially in our country where we don't have a single voice. Really speaking up against the government. You don't have a single voice that is, calling the BS. And people say it's like speak against the government. It's like it's not even about speaking against this boogeyman called government. It's about critiquing, calling attention to the oppressive mindset, the mindset that sponsors and encourages oppression in our country, where we praise a rich man in without any form of critical thinking. When a rich man does something, nobody's there to criticize him. We say he has money so he can do anything. How? Why? That is illogical. That has no basis in reality. You are a rich man, you can't just do anything. You can't. You just can't. You understand? So it's like conversations like that are important to be had. And it's like in this country a lot of people say things like it's not his fault now, I don't reach it, don't like when this man, this Drewski, came from America and he was welcomed with open hand. I think a lot of streamers like followed him. They were hosting him in Lagos. They were making him feel special. And like Drewski is a controversial person in his country as well. He's not like he stands up for any like rights. He's not like he even perpetuates negative stereotypes about especially black women in his country. So when he came to this country, I don't know, there was a lot of discussion on Twitter how, it was very idiotic what he said about, Nigerians, and how, he perpetuated this stereotype of, he made this skit of how, like, Nigerians are like 419s and they are scammers and they are doing this fraud, online fraudsters business, and, all of that thing. He perpetuated that stereotype, and it's like, he perpetuated that stereotype, like, while being hosted and being taken care of by so-called influential figures in our society. And it's like there has to be somebody, there has to be a shift in mindset, that actually on the spot, can say no, to to ugly systems of thinking, that persist in this country. When people say things like, "Oh, he's a rich man, he can do anything," no, we have to have, like, there has to be a voice. You understand? It's not just a person. There has to be a mindset shift amongst our people, where we come into class consciousness, and we begin to wage class warfare, where we don't allow people, that see themselves as above the law and above social critique. Because in Nigeria, it's not just you're above the law, you also have voices supporting your exploitation because they aspire to be in your position as a rich man. They aspire to be the oppressor. Okay, we have to have like class consciousness. People have to wake up. You have to wake up to the class that you're existing. You have to wake up to the reality of the ugliness of the class you operate within. You get, I don't know, sir. That's and all of this to say, all of this to go back to my original point, which is that the slaughter of animals is rooted in or oppression of classes among human beings, oppression of women, oppression of children. Is rooted in slaughtering of animals, beef. pork, bacon, all of that farms. And I think I was also saying something before I went off on a tangent, was that when you talk about farms where animals are, slaughter farms where animals are being killed, the gender that is mostly used, that is mostly employed by those farms is male. So men are the major ones carrying out the slaughtering. Now, it's not just any man that slaughters, it is a poor man, usually a migrant here to the country that cannot get a better source of income, that is, being asked, being paid, paid in very small amount to slaughter animals. And the thing about slaughtering animals is that it's actually very graphic. You can literally see the animals squealing, crying for their lives as they are being slaughtered. It is a very painful process of making various kinds of meats that you see in the supermarket here, packaged. It is very, very graphic. It is ugly. It is not pleasant at all. And there has been, from things I've heard here, there not things I've heard, but this particular study, like I was reading, or this, let me not say study I was reading, but this person I was listening to here cited that studies here show that these men that that have to slaughter these animals on a daily, they have PTSD. They have some form of PTSD from the experience. They have some form of trauma attached to the sight of blood. They kind of slowly, just to make a living, they have to force themselves to like be desensitized, and it's not a successful process. Desensitize themselves to the suffering of these animals. Yeah. So I don't know, like at this point in time I think I have to go for now because I have something that I have to do right now. So I don't know, maybe I'll continue the conversation later in the evening, like after a few hours. Yeah, I have to go do something right now. So but anyways, thank you for spending time with me. I hope something came out of what the discussion that I had so far. But I will come back again in a few hours, after I'm done, and we continue the conversation here. So yes, thank you so much. I will see you um later. Okay, bye bye.